Wow, that's quite a headline. Ancient prophecy of the Philippines found in the oldest surviving writing in the Philippines. What? Welcome back to another Solomon's Gold series. We told you we would expand this even further, and we will, in which we will identify in this video this ancient Ilocano epic poem, the character of MARCOS. Who? What? Yep, we didn't name him. The writer did. Now, what does he do in this story? Why is he even there? This is going to make your spidey senses tingle, as there is indeed something to this that is prophetic indeed. We firmly believe. Sure, we can't prove it. Not like we do geography. This is prophecy, and in a veiled form, in fact, as they were likely hiding it from the Spanish, but ancient Filipinos likely knew the meaning of this poem. So, this was during the height of the Spanish lockdown and takeover and just absolute rape of the nation. There's no doubting that. So, basically, any and all literature of the Filipinos was being trashed even prior to that point. I know some always respond, no, the Jesuits never write an admission of their guilt, so they must not have destroyed the Filipino writings. Is that the way that works, by the way? No, that's illiterate. Yet, they do record all Filipinos in areas where literate reading and writing. Yet, where are those writings? They read something. They wrote something. Where is it, Spain? You are responsible. Yeah, where is it, Jesuits? Where is it, Pope? You wanted to control the land, and still have a lot of control to this day. But yes, you are responsible for what happened under your watch. And we don't need your written admission in order to say so. You already admitted it. I mean, certainly no Jesuit is dumb enough to assert the Filipinos destroyed their own writings, are they? Nonsense. But this writing has been retained. However, the Jesuits likely did not even notice that this may very well be prophecy slipped right under their noses. It is amazing, really, when you see where this leads. It is a wow indeed. Before we start, the God culture does not support political parties, and that's not what this video is about. We don't endorse anyone, neither candidate, nobody. We said nothing of this election that just took place, not a word. In fact, we found this a while ago, but we've held it, waiting for the election to be over, because we didn't want to get involved in politics, because we do not do that. Basically, of course, we'll be accused of it anyway, because, well, anyone that does that is illiterate and ignorant. No, we have waited till after the election, and it's not about who's president. It's about a very odd prophecy that just plain exists and tough to explain away when you understand all the many things that we found on this channel. Don't agree? That is fine, and up to you, but we feel this timely to reveal this now, and we shall. As you may notice, we don't care what anyone thinks of any of our content at any time. We're not a part of any organization, and no one can control us. Sorry. We test things and unveil the truth regardless of whom it offends. We really don't care. This is absolutely a topic worth exploration, and we would love to prove it more. But this video is not like our other videos where we prove things out geographically, especially, and we do so with concrete evidences. This is prophecy and a veiled prophecy at that. Always remember, though, on this channel, anyone attempting debate without actually reviewing our position on the Philippines as Ophir, Sheba, Tarshish, and the Garden of Eden, well, you will be muted. Don't even try to debate in ignorance. Our channel, our rules. Let's get started. Over 1 million people have seen the video out there where someone claims Nostradamus, the medieval occult seer and sorcerer, yes, that's what he was. Let's call him what he was. He is no believer, and he is not hearing from Yahuwah, he's hearing from demons, whether he's ever right or wrong. He predicted that, supposedly, MARCOS would win the election. Really? Well, the video especially cites that Nostradamus mentions the Pearl of the Orient, yet we can find no such passage in any of the quatrains of Nostradamus. It's just not there. Never mentions the word pearl even once. So likely it's another hoax to get views, and it worked, certainly, but it appears false. But who cares? What a Kabbalist psychic predicted at any time in any age, that is worthless. I don't care what a demon says. Do you? He consulted demons, and though they can predict events at times, certainly, understand they many times make them happen as well. They're not prophesying. They're telling you what they're going to do. Yes. So what they are predicting is not prophecy, but putting out their plan in advance, which they wish to carry out, and they're patient, and they'll do it over thousands of years even. Somehow that's called prophecy. We don't look at it that way. Now, this is far more telling, however, as we find a connection to MARCOS in the oldest surviving writing of the Philippines. There's also the Laguna copper plate, but that's a legal contract releasing one from debt, not a writing in this sense, so we don't include that as such in the count. However, understand that if Filipinos could write legal contracts that long ago, and very well, mind you, it also means the characterization of the illiterate, deceiving Jesuits who control the education system, especially in the Philippines at this moment, is completely false. No surprise. They paint Filipinos the opposite of what they are, and it is high time every Jesuit and anyone who thinks like them be ousted from the school system. Yes, and we believe the Philippines will do that in time. Enough of this attitude of theirs that anything that comes from the Philippines cannot be good. Are you kidding? No, sir or ma'am. They are liars. For we have well proven in a restored history in this series that the Philippines is the most significant land on all of Earth. Sure, many don't like it. When YouTube, who censors us, Facebook, who bans our posts, even from sharing often, bloggers and the most illiterate communist channel in all of history attack us in just total ignorant fashion. Nonsensical, of course. They can't even read. No one has disproven our findings that the Philippines is Ophir and the Garden of Eden in over 5 years, and they will not. It is far too well proven. We don't care who in academia embraces it and who does not, for this may be the defining issue that will be what will keep their job or not in time. The evidence is more than overwhelming. If you have not reviewed Solomon's Gold Series in full or read the international publishing of our position, now being read in over 100 countries, by the way, do so. The Search for King Solomon's Treasure, it is supported by a 300-page source book. We ain't playing, and we dare anyone to disprove it. No one has, nor will they. You can read this book free in eBook at ophirinstitute.com or purchase in print worldwide on Amazon or Shopee. Again, just go to the website. All the links are there. Now, let's find out what this poem reveals. And oh, is this so good! We will be using excerpts from the publishing of this poem by Pantas Project Philippines. There are multiple out there. And you know what? Even there's a children's book format of sort. We encourage you to support and buy all of their books. All of them. As after you see this, you may well wish to have a copy. We are not publishing this. We'll leave it to them. They already have. This, of course, is an English-speaking channel, so we're using the English translation by Angelita L. Santos. A little background, and we'll get right to it here. From the UP Folklore Studies program, not us, the Ilocano Biag ni Lam-Ang, or Life of Lam-Ang in English, is the oldest recorded Philippine folk epic and the only complete epic to come down to us from the Christian Filipino groups. The earliest recording of the poem was given by Friar Gerardo Blanco to Isabelo de las Reyes, who published it serially or in bulk in El Ilocano from December 1889 to February 1890. So over a year, really. She kept publishing it, I guess pieces, I don't know. Some identify this as early as 1640, by the way, as far as its origin. And really the date doesn't matter. The point is it's long before Marcos, and that matters here. But this is the official publishing and good enough. With a Spanish translation in prose and also reprinted in his El Folklore Filipino, Volume 2, 1890 basically, under the title Vida de Lam-Ang, of course that's Spanish, Life of Lam-Ang, really, with the Ilocano text and text translations in Spanish. So, though this is a folklore epic poem, it is well documented in academia. We wanted to be clear on that. Understand that. Of course, some of the students out there protesting in ignorance have no idea of the veiled reference right here in this poem. And we hope you'll watch this video. Before we get started, let's set a perspective here. Who is Lam-Ang? You heard that name before? We've covered this. Lam-Ang is not simply a name of some random character, folks. It is a representation, a connotation of the nation of the Philippines. This is amazing. Found in this well-published map that we covered in part 11 of Answers in 1st Enoch, along with tons of maps, in fact, in that one video that identify the Philippines as the land above the Garden of Eden and the land of gold, Ophir, Sheba, Tarshish. Try to debate that without reviewing that position. You will be muted. This is our channel, our rules. This map is from 1151 AD. Wow, 400 years or so before the Spanish. Whoa! And what was the Philippines called on this map? Lam-Ang. Wow. I mean, that is incredible. So this is not an individual's name, folks. This is a nation. The life of Lam-Ang is the life of the Philippines. And let's review what happened and what happens prophetically to the Philippines. Let's be clear. We already proved the location in history, and this restores prophecy in which Messiah in Matthew 12:42 and Luke 11:30 tells us the Philippines will rise in the last days. Oh, this is going to go there too. Imagine that. Ezekiel 38 and Isaiah 60 verse 9 tell us the same, and these appear the basis of this prophetic story. For the ancient Filipino knew far more than we even realize. Is Marcos Lam-Ang? No. He plays a role in the story, though that is monumental, his role that is, and a wow, no doubt. This is amazing. The life of Lam-Ang is a mirror to the life of the Philippines, and it really does match. And wait till you see what happens to the Philippines in the end. And yes, Marcos is involved. This is cool. Whether this one or another one, by the way. It's right there, and no coincidence in our well-informed opinion. Yes, we know academics love to ridicule things like this. Let them. They will do so in willing ignorance as usual and always. Because, well, they seek their own lust, just as 2 Peter 3 warned us they would and do. They hate Yahuwah largely, and that is their problem, not ours. And we won't ever allow that to affect what we put out on this channel. We don't care what any losers like that have to say about anything. Just like when we expose the illiterate rendering of Maharlika. from the wrong language, especially, and so nonsensical. Watch that video and you'll see for yourself. They went on to attack, yet not a single one of them could overcome our position and prove it wrong. Not a single one of them could prove their position accurate, because it is the dumbest of etymologies in history, probably. But anyway, most especially just because they ignore our very solid findings of the Philippines as Ophir and the Garden of Eden doesn't make it untrue. Hello. It makes them scoffers and fools who operate in what 2 Peter 3 warned they would, in willing ignorance. In fact, their willing ignorance and inability to prove it wrong, and prove their position for that matter, proves the position too solid. And we are honored when they scream, "Nuh-uh," like a child. We aren't going anywhere, folks, and neither are our many thousands of viewers. So academia, you're going to have to deal with this at some point, whether you like it or not. The truth will be restored, and this drum is going to keep beating. You would have to prove it wrong, and you can't. So, better get to accepting this now. Let's move forward. This is like a 40-page poem, and really it's a chronological story, far more than your standard poem, of the life of Lam-Ang, from birth to death, basically, and resurrection. So we will use excerpts, and there is a link in the description box. Read the whole thing. We encourage you, read this whole thing. Read it over and over again. This is a YouTube video, and we aren't intending to go on for hours here, so we're just not. Please read the whole story for yourself. Just as we always say, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Our story begins with the birth of Lam-Ang. We're going to give you a recap. And his mother's Filipino cravings, which is fascinating when you read all the many things she craved, especially shellfish and certain fruits, which is common with many pregnant women, of course. When he is born, Lam-Ang's father is then killed in a battle with the Igorots. Sorry, Igorots, it's what the story says. Remember, Lam-Ang and his father's family are from Bacnotan, on the coast, in La Union, actually. So, basically, as Lam-Ang is the Philippines, though, it really represents local battles in antiquity, which is likely and no surprise to see. Philippines, though, it really represents Lam-Ang, because Lam-Ang grows. He then, again, remember, he is not actually one man, but the Philippines, or the ancient name of the Philippines, Lam-Ang. For one, Ophir is another and larger name. He defeats the Igorots with a bolo, or machete, for anyone that doesn't know what a bolo is. Basically, the whole tribe. Wow. Lam-Ang does that by himself. But again, remember, it is the Philippines. And gains much wealth from that as well. The number of mentions of gold in this account are staggering, especially in application. Even gold ships. Yes, ships made of gold, you'll see. And yes, that is recorded in other places in the land of gold as well. You won't find that in other countries. Do you know another country that has such? We don't. And Bulawan gold is mentioned many times. Those are the gold coins in the Philippines, in a legend that could really only hail from the land of gold, really. A massive abundance is overwhelming here, and you'll see that. We'll give you some of those references. Lam-Ang is also trading in his ships with China, which is the Philippines, not one man. So the nation is trading with China, or really the Lucos or Ilocanos of Ilocos. Duh, that's a pretty easy one, academia. How about you learn how to interpret that? Basically, that began their trade with China as early as 990 BC, according to Sir Douglas of the British Museum and Dr. Craig. Around 1907, I think Dr. Craig was 1912 or something like that when he wrote of the same. Specifically, though, this is consistent with the Lucos, who were famous for being richer and more eminent than the Chinese, according to Duarte Barbosa, who identified the islands across the sea from Indochina, basically, so not real hard to identify. Yet academia still thinks that's Japan. Duh, no, it's not. Because they have become British subjects instead of free thinkers who can actually read and comprehend for themselves. And that is sad. We have well proven that is at this point, and we will speak freely about it. Because this channel will not placate ignorance, not in scholarship, and also not in academia. You're welcome. This poem, as it is called, is really a story which has basis in historical fact and affirms the land of gold, its ships, its trade, its traditions, its history, but most of all, its destiny in prophecy we will get to. Now we're going to fast forward, though, as Lam-Ang then takes a wife as he grows. It's funny because when he does, the woman he wishes to marry is being courted by many wealthy men, and some even Spanish and foreigners. How about that? The Filipina is certainly a beautiful, or Pantas, since we're in Ilocano territory here, since we, and a treasure indeed. And I think all men would basically agree with that. See, the Philippines boasts the beauty of its women indeed. Now, we begin in the middle of the story as Lam-Ang prepares to go meet and court this Napintas woman, this Filipina, competing with many men, even those of great wealth, even foreigners. But he was no lightweight himself. Oh no, wait till you see. Neither was the Philippines in antiquity, not in gold especially, which it had in such abundance. The wealth was so incredible. There is no other land that could even qualify as the land of gold when you understand what the Philippines was. But don't you dare say that in academia, because you're not allowed. Well, that's called propaganda, and it's stupid. So how about you stop it and drop the control lines? Read the book, watch the series. Yes, we prove it. Go ahead and try to disprove it. We dare you. History is very abundant and indisputable. So let's read. Please open also the third room of their house, of course, and take from there the gold. So wait a minute. Lam-Ang had a gold room in his house. Imagine that. A room filled with gold. Buluan, ancient gold coins found in archaeology. We've actually covered that. We covered it in the book with photos as well, so you can see those. It's pretty cool. Of 9 coils, so 9 coils of coins. Not sure how tall that would be, but it's gold, folks. So it is very valuable, which breaks when exposed to the sun, whose heat is intense enough to sting one's heel. And indeed, in the Philippines, that is true of the sun indeed, which is why it's called the land of the morning, the land of the sun, the rising sun. Along with his white rooster, yellow-legged hen, and hairy dog, this is a really cool addition to the story. It makes it a bit like a children's story, but again, this has basis in history, folks. Lam-Ang goes on a journey. He is challenged by other Filipinos, for instance, Sumarang along the way, whom he defeats as well. Then another woman tries to capture his attention along the way, but Lam-Ang would not be detained. See, ancient Filipinos did not play along with the systems of conquerors. They thought for themselves. And as we have covered, even in worship, they worshipped Abba, yes, the same title used by Messiah and Paul for Yahuwah authentically. While they raised their hands toward heaven, their face to the sky, that's what Pigafetta says, and cried out to their Abba. And that's according to Magellan's words as well through the historian Pigafetta, who witnessed this. They did not worship multiple gods, and even the king of Zebu, who embraced Magellan's idols, the woman and the child, yes, those are idols, wasn't even a Filipino, but a Hindu from Sumatra. And he loved his new statues, that Magellan gave of the mother and the son, because he already worshipped such in his Hindu temples by different names. That was not foreign to him in worship at all. But it was to Lapu-Lapu and the true Filipino who rejected Magellan and everything he represented, killing him. And then days later, killing his replacement, captain and brother-in-law, Barbosa, Duarte Barbosa, the famous explorer. He was Magellan's number 2. And even chased the remaining ship of the Spanish out of Visayas after that with a fleet of ships. But back to the story here. Dona Ines Canoyan, the prized Filipina, said, "Having gone up the hut, Father, to whom I owe my life, please bring out the golden chair, plated with Bulawan gold, made by people from the north." So those would be Ilocanos. So her family, too, had gold, and here they had a chair made of Bulawan gold, the same gold that they made coins from. Wow. Made by the Ilocanos of the north. And then a meal is prepared. Canoyan pined for Lam-Ang. But again, let's remember, this is the Philippines. She would choose her country over Spain, which is the real point here, though veiled. What is sad is even today, there are Filipinos, especially in academic circles, even the ones in power largely. I'm not talking about presidents, I'm talking about museum directors and the like, who prefer to appease the British, Americans, and New World Order over their own, far more significant country, which they remain willingly ignorant to because they will not even read. Of course, this is why they ignore the facts and forget who they are as a people. This amnesia is about to be dealt with in this nation. Lam-Ang was not majorly handsome, however, which is never really the point necessarily, but she will fall in love with him over all the others anyway. Wow. She falls in love with the Philippines as she is the woman of Revelation 12, the land of the woman. We proved that out. Watch parts 13a through G of this series, Solomon's Gold series. This is the land of the woman, in fact, in all of history since creation. Now, her parents, and this is Philippine tradition, give Lam-Ang, the Philippines, a challenge to produce a large amount of gold. Giftings to the bride's family are very typical in the Philippines in marriage. And so he does to their surprise, yet this was the land of gold. So he was underestimated indeed. However, check this out. If you can fulfill all that we assign to you, this is her parents speaking, you can marry our Canoyan. If your means allow you to match the wealth we shall enumerate. And now, here they go with the list. And this is really a wow, because the amount of gold that it would take is just unfathomable, and yet Lam-Ang has it. How about that? My son Lam-Ang, look around you. Let the footpath be of gold. Okay, so a path of gold, got that? The yellow brick road, right? At the middle of the yard. The butchering blocks, 2. Butchering blocks are real thick wood typically. Oh no, now they're going to be of gold. Gold everywhere. Now, only in the land of gold is this a reasonable request. It sounds outrageous already, and we just getting started here. But no other nation can produce this. The Philippines has throughout history, well documented, and we cover that in the book and this series. Watch and read. Try to debate in ignorance. and thou shalt be muted. Our channel, our rules. There are 2 carved roosters, 4 carved hens, 2 shrimps, swimming upstream as it were. Let all these be of gold. Wow. Now, my son, Lam-Ang, cast your gaze now and imagine 2 pomelos, grapefruits, basically. Also of pure Balawan gold. Wow. These are Kanoyan's playthings. Again, a lot of gold and abundance that would seem out of place unless you understand the massive supply of gold in the ancient Philippines, the very land of gold of all antiquity. They're not done yet. And also, these spinning paraphernalia, the tek-tek and gaganyayan, and the gong, and the longgangang, too, all of the clotheslines. Let these all be of Bulawan gold. Wow. Now bear in mind, Bulawan gold is Philippine gold, not traded gold, no, native gold of the land, which is well documented and in great abundance indeed. Kanoyan's mother then added, our son Lam-Ang, do marry Kanoyan if you can match all that we told you. So there you go, folks. They laid down the gauntlet. There you have it. So what does Lam-Ang do? Well, Lam-Ang in turn said, Mother Namungan, that's his mother's name throughout the poem, what you have told me to match cannot exhaust my inheritance. Ooh, how about that? Not even just the stocks in my fish ponds if sold wholesale. Whoa! Lam-Ang already had this gold and more, whether alone other assets. I know some in the West would demean a fish pond, in fact, but a very lucrative business, especially in ancient times as well. And Lam-Ang was an international trader you're about to see, even as far as China. Wow, this guy was no minor player. But again, this is really the Philippines, not one person. Again, though, not one man. This is a connotation for the Philippines. This is the representation and the point. The world, even in the era this was written, as Spain was raping the land and totally trying to rebrand it as savage and barbarian, which has always been illiterate and utterly stupid, even by Spain's own initial writings. I mean, it's bad when they can't even agree with themselves, but Jesuits don't care. They don't care because they can't actually think. They just want their propaganda. But there was still so much wealth even during that time. And I have in mind only the fish pond, other than those I expropriated from the Igorots I conquered. So he had even more. He'd expanded his fish pond network in addition. It is not even a 9th part of my inheritance. Wow, it's already a whole lot of gold. From my great-grandfathers, both paternal and maternal. Now, see, this is a big key case and point. Because, see, gold was handed down from their ancestors in the Philippines according to De Morga in 1609. This is confirmation of that. That's valid history, however. Let's be clear. This was substantial, not just a trinket of gold. These were large transfers of wealth in the land of gold, just as one would expect. But should the man, Lam-Ang, still fall short, what's he doing? He's going to continue to tell them of the great wealth that he has, which is far greater, as he continues. I still have 2 boats of Bulawan gold. Wow. Now, whether the boats are made of gold completely or filled with gold really doesn't matter, but probably, because there are other accounts that say this, literally, they were at least lined with gold. The periodically ferry Chinaware direct from China. From the king of Puan of China is my relative and friend. Not sure how, he doesn't say, but with the amount of trading the Philippines did with China, this is no surprise. This king took a Filipino wife. That's what it appears. Right now, one of my boats, Sampan, I believe, is on its way back with its Chinaware cargo. Wow. Again, a very well-documented trade where Filipino ships came to Canton, China, as early as 990 BC. Chinese scrolls say they were being taxed and on Philippine goods. It's right there in writing and has been all along. And so trading at least began in China from the Philippines, arriving there that early. This continued throughout history, and it was Filipinos who crossed the sea long before China ever did. So maybe China, you ought to drop your case that you don't actually have and already lost anyway, and get out of the shoals that you're not supposed to be in the first place. Please take with you all those that Kanoyan shall wear, the slippers embroidered with buluan, gold. Wow, even slippers of gold, embroidered with gold. That's pretty cool. And soon the ceremony of coins and veils. Now there's a Filipino ancient tradition, not Catholic, and Anna and I, in fact, included this in our ceremony too, and man, was it beautiful. Another ancient Filipino tradition we even saw carried over into the U.S. and definitely still in the Philippines for sure. And the townmates of Lam-Ang and Kanoyan ate on the same tables. Listen to what I say. One may keep his plate, even wrap up food to take home. Now, this is a tradition, and they do this at every event, every celebration pretty much. Again, even overseas. Everyone takes food home with them. That's a big thing to the Filipino culture, and it's really cool. Now we get to the good stuff here. Check this out. My wife, Kanoyan, I have been chosen to dive for shellfish called rarong. I have dreamt that I shall doubtless be eaten by the shark, Tiwan. Wow. See, Lam-Ang, the Philippines, has a prophetic nature and purpose for that matter. Understand that. This is important. The Philippines foresaw its fall under the Spanish, that it would be seemingly completely devoured. But that is not the end of this story. Surfacing, he tried once more to locate them, and having seen some, dived once more. This is Lam-Ang diving, and here's the story, right into the mouth of the fish, a big Tiwan shark. Wow. Just as he prophesied, and this was a sad day, folks, because the shark who attacked from the sea is the Spanish and their Jesuits or Augustines, the Pope, really, who blessed such destruction. Yes, and there is no denying that. The shark swallowed the Philippines whole. Indeed, it did. But still, this is not the end of this story. My husband, Don Lam-Ang, where can you be now? There is none I can hire to look for you. The woman Kanoyan, his wife, then sought help and found, who? MARCOS, the diver. Who? What? The Philippines is dead at this point, and the woman, the land, because it's the land of the woman, does not give up on Lam-Ang. Imagine that. She does not give up on the Philippines. Why? Because the Philippines shall rise. Who does she bring in to save the Philippines? Lam-Ang? MARCOS. This was written in, some say, again, 1640, published in the 1800s, long before there was a MARCOS in power. Wow! And then, tapos, The diver, old man Marcos, dived then, but he failed to find the bones. The second time he dived, he found the bones of Lam-Ang, the Philippines. How about that? Where the shark had expelled them. The Philippines was stripped down to the bone at that point. But this, folks, is not the end. The cock, rooster, manok in Tagalog, said, "Sir, take all the bones and beach them. None should be missing." Why? Yahuwah is going to reassemble and restore the Philippines here. Yes. And when no more bones could be found, the cock examined the bones closely. He found nothing missing, the bones of Lam-Ang having been completed. The yellow-legged hen crowed, the rooster shook its wings, and the bones started to move. The dog with the curly locks howled twice, then clawed the ground, as though to bury the bones of Lam-Ang. Then the man Lam-Ang got up at once. He resurrected from the dead. This is the Philippines, and it shall rise as Messiah said it would in Matthew 12:42 and Luke 11:30. Wow. How soundly I slept, my wife Kanoyan. It's been 7 nights. What? 7, Yahuwah's number of completion, folks. The word 7 in Hebrew is rendered Sheba. Ha ha! How about that? So 7 nights, if you look at this in today's generations, that's somewhere around 490 years. The average person lives about 70 years today. So think about that. It has been 500 years since Magellan arrived in the Philippines. Just last year was that celebration. Not his arrival, by the way. Really, Lapu-Lapu's killing him was truly the celebration which it should be. Since we last slept together, and all the signs you told me about were cause for my weeping, for I couldn't bear it, couldn't bear losing you. Dear husband, Don Lam-Ang, give me your hand. The woman Kanoyan missed you so much. The land of the Philippines, which is the land of creation and the first Sabbath, Sheba, 7, oath, same meaning. It's all there. Sabu, same derivative in Hebrew. The very land where Adam and Eve lived and the first childbirths took place in all of history. This land matters, and it wants you to return to the ways of Yahuwah. Even your land cries out. It groans for his return, the land of the woman. To restore his presence in your life, your barangay, your city, your province, your island, your country. Lam-Ang. Once there, Lam-Ang said, and get this, it is only right to repay the old man, the diver, whose name was what? Marcos, folks. Marcos. My wife, Kanoyan, give him a pile of coins taller than he is. That's right. Ferdinand Marcos was a very wealthy man in gold long before he ever took office. Think about it. This is how it ended the life of Lam-Ang. It ended. The very last part of the story is Marcos receiving gold. How about that? Now, we all know there's lots of legends, there's lots of stories, what is real, what is not real, etc., etc. But here's the point. There's no doubt that Ferdinand Marcos was very wealthy in gold before he took office. That's actually not something up for debate. And then many, just don't realize he was already at least a multimillionaire, probably a billionaire, even at that time. So many of the things that the CIA narrative leveled at him just weren't even appropriate when you understand that. But most people did not. Many did not. Even those protesting certainly did not. And there is much more to the story. Having grown up in the U.S., I'm well aware of the control lines that we hear from the media, and the CIA overseas is only far worse. All right, here you have it. So let's recap here. Lam-Ang is the Philippines as a nation. Kanoyan, his wife, is the land of the Philippines, which is the land of the woman. Again, watch the rest of Solomon's Gold series. Also watch our prophecy video, especially part 9. If you don't know, most Filipinos have a very close relationship to their land. Then you don't know the Filipino, if that's the case. There is a massive display of an abundance of gold and wealth unimaginable and not seen in any other nation, right here in this story. And if this was the only place we find that, one could attempt to debate that as maybe embellishment or fiction. Yet, right out of Pigafetto's journal, right out of the Boxer Codex, right out of the many writings of the Portuguese and the Spanish especially, we find this historically supported as fact, not legend. For the Philippines is the only land that historically carried the name of Ophir and Tarshish, and Sheba for that matter. India never did. Malaysia never did. Saudi Arabia is a joke. Africa, anything in Africa for such, is a complete joke in the wrong direction, in the wrong son's territory, just grossly missing the whole story. The Philippines had thousands of years married to its land in peace and prosperity. That's the story. With an authentic worship of Yahuwah, Lam-Ang, and Kanoyan. But then the shark came. Magellan and the Spanish after him that swallowed up the Philippines, or ancient Ophir, Sheba, Tarshish, from the sea even. They were acting like sharks from the first voyage. They were mafia thugs and pirates, not credible explorers and historians. That's a joke. That includes the Augustine friars and Jesuits with them for that matter. We know many stories, such as that of Dole, the Jesuit missionary, who became a very, very wealthy man, which is not supposed to be the mission of a Jesuit, is it? Well, maybe it is, but it's wrong, nevertheless. So basically, they exhibit the fruits of Satan, killing, stealing, and destroying. Those aren't Yahuwah's fruits. We need to know that. The Philippines had been raped down to the bone. The gold that was mined, stolen. The resources usurped. In fact, the Igorot actually very wisely said that they thought it better to leave the gold in the ground rather than to mine it and try to keep it in their homes because the Spanish would just steal it. Well, you can't blame them for that. Their prized women defiled by an evil many try to ignore today. It's still defiling this land right now. It needs to go in every sense. Then the diver named Marcos. Which one? We don't know for sure. Some may say the first and could support that, maybe even the strongest, and then again, maybe it's this one. Or, and some would say, maybe it's the next. Either way, doesn't matter. His name is invoked in a very direct prophecy of Marcos, who dives in and returns the bones of the Philippines back to its land for Yahuwah to restore it. There, the Philippines will rise and be restored, but this will happen only in Yahuwah. There is no other rising. This is not about economy. It will be a restoration of his ways, in which Messiah tells us in Matthew 12:42, the queen of the south, still known as Shabu, or Sheba, to this very day, by the way, will rise in judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Sheba, the queen of Sheba, is the ancestor of Sheba, the brother of Ophir, the Philippines, not the wrong one in Ethiopia. His ancestor, who was queen, visited Solomon, gifting the resources of the Philippines to the temple. Why? because Adam first did from the same land of Adam and Eve. The three kings, really 6 or more, will do the same at Messiah's birth, at least 2 years after. We cover that in great detail in this series. Watch it. Don't even think about debate in ignorance. This man Marcos is also given as payment so much gold, bulawan, it amounts to a pile taller than he. Now that's major wealth. And even the first Marcos did in fact receive a large amount of gold before he was ever president. For doing what? He was the lawyer for gold being returned from the Vatican to the Philippines, which, by the way, is a very, very monumental event. Because generally, the Vatican doesn't return gold. I mean, they are the conquerors. These nations have been conquering in the name of the Pope. You got to remember that. You can't overlook that. So this is incredible. This leads to a strong position that the father may have been this Marcos, but we don't know for sure. And it doesn't matter which one. But we know from that family that is mentioned here, this will happen. We only know it is one named Marcos, whom Yahuwah will use to save the Philippines, to put it on course. Now, does Marcos save the Philippines? No. Yahuwah does. But he will use a Marcos, according to this legend of prophecy, basically. And it will rise once again from what is seemingly death. They say and try to characterize this as a third world country. Yahuwah places it as his most significant land in all of prophecy and in all of the Bible, really. Yes, even more significant than Israel, because this is a land of creation, the land of the Garden of Eden, the land of the first childbirths that Adam and Eve first birthed their children. There's really no comparison. So, basically, in Isaiah, many times, these isles of the east and the ends of the earth will restore his law, his ways. Will you? We already know many of you will, because Yahusha said so, Isaiah said so, and Ezekiel said so. Again, watch our prophecy video. I think it's part 9. But prophecy is so abundant and clear. Once you restore this geography and you know that the Philippines is ancient Ophir, Sheba, and Tarshish. This land is not about its gold. The gold and silver are mine, says Yahuwah. Understand that. This isn't about wealth. The true treasure is Lam-Ang. It's people. And its people treasure Kanoyan, its land. This is unlike any other. And why? Because the Holy of Holies of Yahuwah on all of earth exists and has always been located in the Garden of Eden, which is where? Just beneath the Philippines. This land will not turn away from him, but shall restore his ways and rise in him once again to an even greater position on the world stage, says Yahusha, not us. It is the last standard Yahuwah will raise up against the final world empire, says Revelation, says Ezekiel, and says Isaiah. Their power is temporary and very evil. Just look at their overreaction to a virus, just a little worse than the flu. They seized power. That's what it was all about. Power over our bodies even, telling us in violation of the law what we must put in our body. A violation of gross and epic proportion. They will not stop until Yahusha defeats them. But the Philippines will rise and stand. We believe it is time. We have over 400 videos on this channel, one for every day of the year now, many just as profound, with some 50 or so in Tagalog for Filipinos, and now 6 in Spanish to start. We also have been setting up subtitles. for 20 plus videos, for 20 plus languages for most of our videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications, and share this video because YouTube isn't. Join our email list, as YouTube fails to notify often, and we will notify you ourselves at thegodculture.com. Just fill in the pop-up there. We have alternative platforms for videos on Rumble, Odyssey, and Utreon, and our podcast is now available for all of our videos as well, pretty much. All links in the description box. Friend us on Facebook at The God Culture _space original. If you prefer an alternative, we now have Parler, link below. We now have 6 books published internationally, being read in over 100 countries. With our new release now available, the first book of Enoch, the oldest book in history, and yes, we prove it. Read the introduction. We also have now launched Ophir Philippines Coffee Table Book in the US, Canada, UK, and many overseas markets on Amazon, and it is available in hardcover or softcover there, all color interior, and very nice paper. Additionally, we launched the Book of Jubilees, the Torah calendar, with color maps now and interior, as so many had requested overseas, so that's there on Amazon in hardcover or softcover, both color, if you wish. And also, it is still available in black and white as well. And you will find on Amazon the first book of Enoch in the same 3 formats. All books, including Solomon's Treasure, are now free in eBook. Just go to ophirinstitute.com for all the links for your area for all of our books. More coming soon. Thank you for watching. Now, always remember, prove all things for yourself. Yah bless to everyone.